There's a big problem brewing in housing right now. If it continues the way it is, it could very quickly turn your house from being a valuable asset into being just a big liability. It seems like nobody's been talking about it, at least not in the context of tiny homes, but I think it's something you should really consider before buying or building a home, or even deciding whether it's a good idea to continue holding on to your existing home. I debated for years whether I wanted to build a regular size conventional house on this property or just a small cabin or tiny house. I'm going to show you why I decided to go with a shipping container tiny house on this property, at least for now, as a solution to the problem we're about to discuss, and for other reasons too. The sun is trying to come out. It looks like the lighting is going to get obnoxious up here. Let's go down in the woods, take a quick walk. I'll tell you what you can do to mitigate this situation that we're about to talk about, which is just a fancy way of saying we're going to make it so you don't have to deal with this problem. Here on the West Coast, we have our own version of that problem, but across the country, there are different versions of the same problem. Someone who lives not far from here recently told me their homeowner's insurance company recently dropped them. I'm hearing a lot of that. Insurance companies are refusing to insure homes that are in places that could be wildfire prone, which would include a huge percentage of the western United States. They did find another insurance company to insure their home, but in order to do that, their insurance premiums shot way up. Now that's what's happening in this part of the world, but what about other parts of the country? From what I hear, it's the same situation with hurricanes, floods, earthquakes. It's becoming more difficult and more expensive for people in a lot of places to insure their homes. We are most of the way through the doom and gloom part of this video. Just bear with me for another quick moment. We're almost to the happy part. Maybe there will be some kind of a solution to this, but if this problem continues to go in the direction it has been, if you can't get insurance on your home, all the people around here who own homes, what's going to happen to the value of the homes? How are they supposed to sell the homes if the buyer knows they can't get insurance, therefore they won't be able to get a mortgage? For a lot of people, buying their home is the biggest investment they'll ever make. Some say it's an investment, some say it's a liability. We're not going to get into that. But what happens when this home that they've worked their whole life to buy, now they can't sell it, now they can't insure it? On top of that, it makes it really hard to enjoy a good natural disaster that's racing toward your home when you know if your home gets destroyed, it's not going to be insured. It really takes the fun out of the whole thing. We're almost there. We're well over halfway through the doom and gloom part of the video. We just have to make sure we set up the problem here. Otherwise, nobody's going to care to listen to what the solution is if they don't know what the problem is. We're almost there, almost to the happy part. Just because you can get insurance on your home and continue to pay premiums every month doesn't mean you're going to be protected when a disaster happens. I've heard a lot of horror stories of people who thought they were protected, but a disaster happens to their home and they have problems. Maybe they didn't read the fine print. Maybe the insurance company has little clauses here and there that they can find reasons to cause you problems. Look at the homes in the Paradise Fire. Happened in 2018, California, over 11,000 homes burned. 2018, now it's 2026. More than half of the homes have not been replaced. A lot of the people who lived in that town before the fire are still displaced. The ones who have been able to get the insurance companies to come through and build them a new house, sometimes they have to put their own money in to make up the difference between what they thought they were being covered and what they're actually being covered. How eager do you think the insurance companies are now going to be to insure those homes after the insurance companies took such a big hit? From what I hear, some of the premiums in that area they're ridiculous. Again, this is not only about wildfire. Look at the flooding in Tennessee, North Carolina, hurricanes along the Gulf Coast, the East Coast, tornado damage in the Midwest. An earthquake can strike where you least expect it, when you least expect it. I don't know that any of us are immune from this. And it's not only happening out in the middle of BFE. A good chunk of the LA area burned down about a year ago. These are all insurance company homeowner nightmares that are currently happening, which is all just an overly wordy way of saying Homeowner insurance really sucks. And if something doesn't change, it may only get worse, maybe much worse. In some cases, you might not even be able to get it where you are. I think we did it. We finally made it to the end of the doom and gloom part. So let's get out of this doomy, gloomy canyon. Actually, it's rather nice down here. But for the sake of the story, let's get out of this doomy, gloomy canyon, go up above, see if we can find a solution. I was expecting the sun to be out by the time we got back up here to help represent being back in the happy place. But it's better lighting without it. I think we're just as well off without it. I may have painted an ugly case scenario based on extremes. Maybe all of this will work itself out and it won't be that bad. But still, how many people do you know who get excited and say, yippee, every month when it's time to pay their homeowner insurance? Maybe you run into a lot of that, but that may just mean we run around in different circles. I just don't see a whole lot of that. The sun came out. That's not happy. It's just too bright, especially up against this white surface. With all of that, at least for now, on this property, I've decided I don't want to have to deal with any of that. I'm just going to opt out of the whole system. Instead of taking out a mortgage or coming up with hundreds of thousands of dollars to clear off the land, pour concrete, build a house. I looked up the cost of building an average house in Oregon. It can range, excluding the land, anywhere from $250,000 to $500,000. Instead of putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into a house I may not be able to insure, they're still a little bit goofy looking, but I'm still working on them. Give me a break. They're still a work in progress. They'll be much nicer when they're finished. I decided to build something I don't need to insure. For one, I'm building them out of shipping containers. Between that and the defensible space I have around here, they should be somewhat fire resistant. But if they do get destroyed by fire or anything else, it's not going to be a big deal. I'm building these in a way that will be comfortable and functional, but for such a low cost, if they get destroyed, it won't be financially devastating or emotionally devastating or life-altering. It will certainly be annoying and a big inconvenience, but I would much rather deal with annoying and a big inconvenience than all those other things. I would much rather accept the slight risk that that annoyance may happen someday than for sure knowing I'm going to have to deal with and pay for the insurance company, the mortgage company, the power company, the gas company, water and sewer services. If I build an expensive house up here, my property taxes are going to go from really low to really high. The future cost of maintenance and repairs, a lot of the people who own the businesses who do that kind of work are baby boomers, my generation, Generation X. Baby boomers are retiring. My generation will be next. There could be future labor shortages that cause the cost of maintaining a home to continue to go up. This may explain why it seems like most people are broke, why they don't have money left over to do the things they want to do. I know I'm going back into doom and gloom, but the sun came out, and what if we could just opt out of all of this? What if we could just forget about all that, instead build something that's simple, low cost, but comfortable and functional? It's not going to impress the Joneses, but how much of your life energy do you want to put into trying to impress the Joneses? Do you think they really care about what you're living in? I think the Joneses are more concerned about impressing you with what they live in than they are caring about what you live in. I wouldn't worry about the Joneses. They're doing all right. I know something like this is not for everyone. It's not for most people. But I think a lot about the young people who are just starting out in their adult lives. How are they supposed to get a house in the mess that we have created for them in housing? Houses are now $500,000 or more, at least in this state. How is a young person supposed to afford that? Or rents. For a lot of young people, just the rent they have to pay is financially sucking them dry. Or people who have already raised their family, the kids have moved on, they no longer need a big house. What if they could just have something simple but comfortable with no payments, no insurance payments? If they want to go live their life, if they want to travel, they can just close the place up. That's what I'm building these for. I can take these off very easily, close the doors, shut the place up. I can leave this place for months if I want to, which is the kind of thing I do. Something like this could give people the ability to live instead of having most of their living going toward paying for all those companies to have just a place to live, which is all just an overly wordy way of saying tiny houses could have some advantages you might want to consider. It probably would have been easier just to say that than to spend the last 10 minutes going through all that other stuff. But since I'm on such a roll, for the one or two of you who might still be watching, I might as well keep going. If these got destroyed, I keep saying these because there are two containers. When I'm finished, these are going to be moved, combined into one unit, kind of. If these got destroyed, if you give me $15,000, maybe $20,000 in a month, I could build these back. After I use these for a while, I will probably find some things about the way I did this that I won't like that much. Some things I will. If these got destroyed, it would just be an opportunity to build them back better. If you didn't have rent to pay or a mortgage and the insurance and all the bills that go along with it, would you be able to come up with $15,000, $20,000 to replace whatever we call this if something was to happen to it? I know a lot of people can't afford to do a lot of the things they want to do in life when so much of the money they earn goes to these companies just so they can have a place to be, a big expensive box to put themselves in. For a lot of people, the enjoyment and the lifestyle they get from their home is definitely worth it. But for the rest, there are some reasons you might want to consider a tiny house. This is all just the opinion of some guy out in the woods. It is not meant to be taken as any kind of financial advice or any kind of advice. For financial advice or any advice, make sure you consult someone who's qualified to give that advice, not just some random guy flapping his jaw on YouTube. And in order to do something like this, you're going to need to have a piece of land or somehow have access to a place to do it. But if you look around the tiny house community, I've seen some people get very creative with that. And depending on where you are, you may run into a few objections from the local planning department to do something like this, because they may have a few different opinions than you do on how you should live your life and what you should do on your land than you do. You may have to go down, talk to the lovely people at your local planning department to find out what you can get away with in your area. If it seems like all of a sudden the sun appears in some shots and then it's gone in other shots, in some shots the sun's coming at one angle, but then another angle in another shot, don't pay any attention to that, never mind that. There's nothing to see here, it's not happening. If you want to know more about this build, I'll put the playlist up here so you can see what's going on here. I haven't been working on these lately. I was planning on working on these for rainy days so I could work inside. Normally in the winter we get all our rain, but this year we're getting sunny, warm weather all winter. I haven't been working on these, I've been busy outside. While the eastern United States has been enjoying their cold, snowy winter, we've just been out here having fun in the sun, building our next drought. Since it doesn't look like we have much rainy weather on the way, I think I'm just going to start working on them anyway. Stay tuned for that.